Introducing the Melanated Social Club Network.
Choose.
Right. Oh. Melanated Social Work Podcast.
Yeah.
Not
network.
BET.
Network.
The BET. CNN.
Welcome to the BET Awards. I'm your host, MC Light.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Melanated
Hey, y'all. Welcome to. Wait.
Melanated Social Work Podcast. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
Not welcome. What the fuck is that welcome from?
It was a hey y'all to me.
Come on in. Come on in. Welcome to Cribs. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh man.
All right, I'm ready this time.
That was so funny.
One of these days we're gonna need to do a
serious.
Look, I'll be committed. Every time I'll be committed. I'll give you 100% of what I got. Even if it's wrong, baby.
She sold the fuck out that shit. She's like, I
said, hey y'all.
Welcome back from commercial.
Right. That's too funny. Josh, are you located in Boston as well?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Said what he said.
Said what I said.
On the airways, I always have a clever troll or something to say. Historical, people get mad, but I don't give a fuck. So I'll just say from the white man. The one my go-to is the white man's Atlanta.
Oh, you right. You right. Damn.
Yeah.
My favorite was the Mississippi of the North. That one was my favorite.
All right.
Hey, aunties.
You got Marvin, Jesse, and Josh here from the Melanated Social Work Podcast.
What's brewing today?
Introducing Melanated Social Work Podcast.
Choose your mental health.
And Ask Yo Aunteas, where the black people at? So get your cups ready for Minority Report. Hey, welcome to Minority Report. It's Auntie Kerel.
It's Auntie Dawon.
And Auntie Jerrell.
And I'm excited about this episode. I feel like we've been waiting for this episode. Like, we've been waiting for this episode longer than we've been waiting for Donda from Kanye.
But that's some pressure.
Y'all was waiting for Donda. I wasn't waiting. I was waiting on them, not Donda. So let's get that straight.
I hear you on that. But we have the gentleman from Melanated Social Work Podcast with us today. And it's time, like, it's weird. Things happen for a reason. I'm a believer of like timing lining up. Just a lot of the stuff coming on with like mental health right now, and like on or it's like Simone Biles and things like that, and just even like our personal lives. This episode has come right on time, so I'm excited. So before we get into the episode, though, I'm not sure. Were you guys prepared? Did you get your auntie names, which is your beverage that is your personality?
Embodies your
personality. Mm-hmm. Let's start with
I know we got some Colt 45s on this podcast.
We have not had a Colt 45. We might have to brand ourselves.
We're gonna claim it. I
actually had a couple back in May. So
you had Colt 45 back in May?
I sure did. Look, I was back home with my people.
Oh, there we go.
There's a little spot right up the street. There's a little like throwback kind of like restaurant-y kind of spot or whatever, and on menu they have Coke 45. So
you are in Harlem. That's right.
I'm in Harlem though, so you know. And it's black on, baby.
I know better than to go home and be like, "Can I get like a cranberry vodka?" They'd be like, "Ooh, that's bougie," and I'm like, "What's a cranberry vodka?" That's how we look. They keep it all the way simple back home. So
that's right. Well, Marvin, let's start with you. What's your auntie name?
Oh man. All right. So I don't drink that much anymore. So I was gonna be Auntie Platinum Kush, but
Platinum.
Is that what you
gonna say?
Okay, I'm not mad at it.
I mean,
But I'm
rep
gonna
your
go.
set. You don't have to drink it. It could just embody. You could just embody it.
But my drink is bourbon, so I'm gonna go Auntie Bourbon.
Okay.
All right. Any particular bourbon?
Whatever you got.
Literally anything that's top shelf.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
Literally anything.
None of that cheap
That's
shit.
top shelf. She said, "You gotta see it from the bar. If they pull it from underneath, you're like,
That ain't the one.
Yeah. Keep
if
that
it's
right
on
where it is.
tap. If it's on tap,
That's funny. Josh, what's your auntie name today?
Tito. Tito. Tito.
Okay.
Tito. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Love
a
that.
man off my own heart because I'm Auntie Vodka, so I'm all the way here for Tito. There we go. And Jesse, what's your auntie name today?
Back in the day, it definitely would have been Auntie Jen. I don't drink anymore, so
Okay.
we're gonna rock with Auntie Pamplemousse.
Oh,
Okay. Come on, LaCroix. Come on, LaCroix. LaCroix.
What was the word that you just said?
Pamplemousse. It's
Yeah,
pamplemousse. It's
yeah,
French.
there you go.
Grapefruit.
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, did she get fruit and gin? I'm like, how you spell this?
I know. I was already thinking in my head. Okay, I have to look that up to see how they even spell it for this episode.
I already put it in there.
Thank you, boo.
For sure.
Je parle un peu français.
That's so funny.
No.
Right. And community, just so you know, we're actually on their episode coming out this week as well. So like it's a nice little crossover moment here. So you get tired of this episode, you get done with it. Hey, you got an hour and a half more. Come on now, step it up. You got more. You go. And actually, this is a new question that I haven't done. I was thinking this because since it seemed like you all are music heads per your episode, coming to the stage is Auntie Tito. Let's start there. What song are you coming out to?
Heat State by Conway the Machine and Benny the Butcher.
Oh, damn. Oh, I like Benny the Butcher. Okay. Jesse, let's go with you. Where are you coming out onto the stage with?
It's definitely gonna be like some, early 2000s like Bay Area hyphy shit. So it's probably like Get Stupid remix.
Ooh, the
Yeah.
remix. I'm trying to remember the remix now. Who was on the remix?
I don't even know. I just know the hook on the remix is different than the OG.
Okay.
The remix is the STUPID. Yeah.
Okay, I might have to look that one back up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Marvin, where are you coming out to?
I'm also, I'm born and raised in Oakland, California, so I gotta do it for the Bay too. It's gonna be "Blow the Whistle" by Too Short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't hang with the big dog. Say the fuck
Whistle.
off the porch. Blow the whistle.
Hey.
That's true.
I mean, he's problematic, but that song is just
Fire.
legendary.
Bro.
I mean, anymore, who
Yeah.
isn't problematic, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's so true. Dawon, what would you come out to?
Oh, I would say Anita Baker, but we know
You know,
somebody who
don't do
know
it.
that episode.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Somebody don't know nothing about that.
Ooh.
That's right. That's right. Because you came out in the 90s. You right. So I wouldn't even know when you coming out.
She wouldn't know anything about that.
We found out last episode that Jerrell did not know Anita Baker sang "Sweet Love."
You know
And
what? This story
we were
needs to
like-
stay in 2021. It's August when it's come out. Let it
We
die
were
in
taken
July.
aback. We were like, "How the fuck did you not know?"
Where are you from?
So I'm from Gary, and I lived the rest of my childhood in Minnesota. But my parents are young, like had me like 18 and 17. So Anita Baker wasn't the music they were listening to. So I didn't grow up with Anita Baker.
Okay.
So That's why I don't know who
You
sang
had
that song.
You
But
had
here's the
33
thing.
more years.
But here's the thing. I know the lyrics to that song. I just didn't know who sang the song. There's a difference. So at least I know the damn song. You know, cut me some slack.
Respect.
I just
Long
didn't
as you
know.
got that.
I just didn't know who sang it.
We gonna accept that.
I
Thank
guess.
you.
I
Thank
guess.
you. Y'all can come back anytime.
In Gary, Indiana, that's a
Yeah.
legendary city of greatness. And I'm not even talking about Freddie Gibbs. You know, I'm talking about the Jacksons. And I went to college with folks in Gary, and they talk about Chicago being people that pop off. I don't mess with folks like that, you know, on the wrong side with Gary, because they got hands. They got hands in Gary.
And that's why her name is Auntie Hennessy.
Auntie Hennessy.
Because she be staying ready to fight.
Very much on brand. Very much on brand. Yeah.
Jerrell, what song would you come out to?
I don't even know.
Coming to the stage is Auntie Henny.
Mine would actually be the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground. That would be mine.
Okay. I'm not
Yo,
mad at
fat
that.
girl, come here.
Come here,
Are
are
you
you
ticklish?
ticklish?
Yeah, I called you fat. Look at me, I'm skinny. And then
Never
stop
stop
me
me
from getting
getting
busy. I'm a
busy.
freak.
Okay.
I like the
I was-
girls with the boom. I once got busy in the Burger King bathroom.
Okay. The whole lyric. Okay. Jerrell,
I
what
will
would you come out
say
to?
one of the songs I remember like as a kid. I think it's one of the like when it comes to music, I remember just being just a real young gay boy at this point. But when Maya My Love Like Well came on, I was just my love was like, and I was all like just feeling my oats.
You gotta come out to Maya.
Yeah, I'm gonna come out to Maya. I love me some Maya. I met her in person.
I'm not mad
She was
at it.
cool. I love me some Maya.
Okay.
I would have never picked that song.
Yeah,
That's
that would
interesting.
be for me. Yeah.
I would come
What
out
about
to,
you?
oh man. There's two that immediately come to mind. Either Ape Shit, just because I'm like, you gotta get the crowd going, come on now.
Yeah.
Or I'm not from the Bay Area, but E40 Tell Me When to Go. Like I can listen to that song every day.
Yeah.
Go ride the whip. Go ahead, man.
Jesus Christ had dreads. So shake it.
Shake 'em. Right? I ain't got no, but I'm planning on growing some. Imagine all the Hebrews going up. See, don't get me started in here. Come on now.
Dancing on
Those
top
are the
of chairs and turning tight.
Yeah.
But anyway, Melanated Social Club, the podcast. And so you guys are working on decolonizing mental health practices by shifting the dialogue around health and healing in the communities of color. So how did the podcast come, and how did it come with this collective? And we're missing one member. We're missing Michael. So, hey, Michael, what's up, man? We're missing you here tonight. But how did the four of you come collectively to start this podcast?
Yeah, so it basically came up. Shout out to Michael not here with us, doing big things always. So Melanated Social Work started as just the four of us. Really, I mean, before we were officially Melanated Social Work, we were at Boston College, and we graduated from their School of Social Work. And as we have talked about, Boston is a very, 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 very white city. And so, with the white city comes white universities, which comes problematic shit that people say, both students, faculty, different things like that. And so, I would have class with Jesse, and some shit would go down, and I look at him like, you see that shit? And, and so basically we all kind of came together, the graduate students of color group, and it was the four of us and other just dope ass folks. We got folks that are working overseas, that are Dana working with the Obama Foundation, just like folks doing just dope shit. But we all kind of came together and just built community to really have kind of a core group. Most of us were living away from home, and so we needed some kind of community away from home. After graduation, we stayed in contact just to give each other support, because we were four that were going the clinical route, both all going to our respective cities, but still wanted that support. Josh had the name picked out even before I think we graduated.
Visionary.
Yeah, Josh is the visionary, I believe. He also got the idea for the Instagram. I forget how we started the podcast. Somebody else can take over. I've been talking a lot.
Well, I mean, I think The first time we had been interviewed, shout out to Desiree over at Supervision Support. She also is a clinician and is just trying to do work in supporting new clinicians and getting supervision. And she had kind of come to us and wanted to interview us and just hear about like how, you know, the four of us met. Because the reality is there's not, first off, there's not a lot of men within the field of therapy and mental health, and there's even fewer men of color in the work. And so we were just talking about that. And I think it was the process of being featured on someone else's podcast. A lot of our followers were like, yo, y'all should just do this.
Yeah.
And so we gave it a try and just been cooking since.
Yeah.
So, did you always know you wanted to go into therapy and like social work, or was that something that came maybe a little later, like even in the college, you're like, you know what, actually, I enjoy this. This is the route I want to take. How, like for each of you, is that something from a kid or just something you kind of grew into wanting to do?
Go ahead, Josh. Just kick it off. Tell us the story.
Nah, to be honest, no. I didn't want to go to social work. I didn't even know what it was. Even when I applied, and I was actually like my first year, I didn't even really know what social work was. And I'm still, at this point, 6 years in, I'm like, oh, this is what it is. Like, I really understand it now. But really, shouts outs to Florida A&M University, FAMU. That's my undergraduate university. I had a lot of opportunities to work with youth. I was an RA. I used to lead, like in Florida, they have this thing called the Florida Comprehensive Assessment Test or whatever, standardized testing. I used to help lead study initiatives for like preschoolers, and then I was a overseas or day camp counselor at American Army bases and Navy bases and embassies in like Germany, Hawaii, and Tokyo. And then similar to Marvin, I did City Year in Boston where it started. So I had all this experience because initially I studied political science and I studied English for pre-law because I was going to go the legal route. But then in City Year, my first year, my program director or whatever, program manager, she pulled me to the side and was like, Josh, I know you want to do this whole legal thing, but there's not a lot of African American men that are pursuing social work. And you may not make as much money, but you won't have as much debt. You'll probably, with these AmeriCorps programs, you'll be able to get some financial support, which I did because of AmeriCorps. And there's so many different levels in order to support, children, youth, and families. Because in City Year, I didn't know I had a natural knack to work with like youth and children and families. I just had it. And she just encouraged me. I applied to one school, got in, and I haven't looked back. So that's the beginning of my story. But also, my mother, who's my mom at her job right now, she has interns listening, social work interns listening to the Melanated Social Work Podcast, and it's part of their colloquiums and stuff.
Hey,
my mom was like, "Babe, you should really look into the social work thing." And then God rest her soul, my grandmother is like a little lady from South Carolina. She's like, she's like Louis Farrakhan a little bit. She wasn't homophobic or anything like that or all those things, but she was very activist like. And she didn't even when she moved to Florida, she didn't live far away from where Trayvon Martin got killed. And she was like, "Baby, I want you to get one of them rifles. Gonna shoot one of them saltines, baby."
Not saltines.
Not the saltines.
So, right. Yeah. So my grandma's I get my fire from my grandma. She's a Leo, just like my boy Marv, who's about to have his birthday in a few weeks.
Hey.
But I just had my mom, my grandma, and good people around me to like, yo, Josh, do the social work stuff. So that's my story.
That's dope. You always need people to push you along and see gifts that you have that you might not even see within yourself, and I love hearing stories about, especially family, just pushing you along, saying, hey, you know what? I seen you do X, Y, Z. I see you continue to go here. You might want to think about social work. You might want to think about whatever it may be. And that's dope. That's dope. Marvin, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I always say I have two answers for this. I have kind of the answer that is warm and fuzzy, like I've been around and I want to be a voice for the voiceless, and all those things are true. Like they're not, untrue. But I think one of the main reasons was that I needed one when I was going through my own development and identity. Growing up as a bisexual Black man in Oakland, California, a lot of us as Black men are taught that, or as Black boys are taught that anything that steps outside of heterosexuality is 1000% wrong. Yeah, right. Yeah. So then I also grew up in the church. So then there was that other, message that like, oh, homosexuality is wrong. So I'm just like, well, shit, I can't tell nobody about this, but like, I'm also attracted to the boys. And so just it led to a lot of just like shit through adulthood that I have dealt with and that I'm like real talk still dealing with. And so, I wish that I had somebody, in middle school, high school to be like, nah, you're okay. Like you shouldn't hate yourself. You shouldn't hate, right. Who you are.
And he is good looking, by the way. That's what I just need someone to say, yes, he is good looking. You're right, Kerel.
I did need that. but yeah, and I was, I'm a darker skinned black man. And so like there was colorism that was coming up for me too. I hated my skin. I hated my dark skin. I wanted to be light skinned so bad because that's what I saw as who was being portrayed as attractive. So I, grew up and I'm just like, damn, like I really wish that this would have been different for me. But what I can do is I can influence other, young people, regardless of gender, sexuality, anything like that, and just encourage them that they don't have to fit into a box. Just be who the fuck you are. So that's my story.
For sure. Yeah. So, I'm a first generation college attendee in my family. And so I didn't know what types of pathways there were for me. I perceived like, okay, I could be a doctor, I could be a lawyer. This is what I thought people go to college for. So I didn't really explore. Yeah, right. I didn't explore a lot of different opportunities outside of that. And so I had set myself on the course to be pre-med. I actually got my undergrad degree in biology with a focus on genetics. Oh, wow. But it was through the process of going to school. I think being at UC Berkeley was one of my first instances of coming up face to face with like institutional white supremacy. I feel like I grew up 15 minutes south of Berkeley and I felt like I was living in a different world. And it was being in that like PWI that really made me, it just put a bad taste in my mouth for school. And so I knew I didn't want to go and continue to get any type of medical degree because I'd be in school for dumbass long. So that was not the move. And I just kind of like wanted to try a bunch of different things. I ended up volunteering for the suicide hotline here in Alameda. And I think it really just opened my eyes to how much my community was struggling with mental health. And I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that growing up, when you hear different things about mental health or depression or people struggling with suicide, a lot of times those images are of white folks. You know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah. And it was interesting taking calls from folks that like, grew up in the neighborhoods I grew up in. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is like a real thing. And I think it was almost a wake up call for myself and some of the things that I'd normalized in my life and been like, oh no, that's trauma. Like, that's not okay. I have my own mental health issues. And so it was partially my own pursuit on my path towards healing. And also it was just something that I was just naturally good at and guided towards. I started working with young folks here in the Bay Area, working in therapeutic settings, residential facilities, school-based programs, things like that. And I had a lot of mentors that were therapists that kind of just really pushed me in that direction. They were like, yo, you should just go to school. You should do this. You should become a therapist. And I've been learning since then. I continue to learn. I'm glad that I get to be in community with the melanated social work, because I continue to learn more and more of like, what does it mean to be a therapist? What does it mean to be a healer? But especially like my partner who is a big like activist and political organizer. I think I always like wanted to know like, where do I fit in that world? You know, because there are folks that are on the front lines, or folks that are engaged in direct action, or folks that are doing policy work. And I think like on the path towards liberation, this is what I've been put on earth to do. I'm here to facilitate people's healing so that we can stay plugged into the movement. You know what I mean?
I love that. Okay, now. Okay. Shit.
Talk about the like the struggle, if there ever was a struggle of getting into social work, because as you know, within our community, that's just not something that we do, and like historically, we just don't. A lot of us don't have access to those kinds of resources. A lot of us feel like, you know, talking to, you know, a therapist or a psychiatrist or something like that is just off, and you know that can be conflicting for a young mind who is trying to carve out their path in the world and trying to figure out what their career is going to look like. So was there ever a moment of internal conflict that you experienced when you were making the decision, like, okay, I'm going to pursue this as a career option?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would just say, yeah, like I still have internal conflict about it. I think the way historically that the system of mental health has been set up in this nation is it's an extension of the prison system. It's an extension of policing. It's been utilized as a tool for social control. It is a tool for colonization. It's let's pathologize people and tell them why they're bad or why they're wrong. And then we utilize that to lock them up in facilities or take them away from their families. So there's a really tainted history that's associated with social work. And I think about that all the time. I think about, what does that mean for me to be a part of that system? Can we change that from within, or what does it look like for us to just totally do our own shit? Like, fuck trying to burn the shit down. Like, we just gonna build our own table. We don't need to be at that table. Yeah. And that's kind of the effort that we're trying to do, is basically come up with our own framework, our own pedagogy of what does it mean to be a healer. And the way that we approach the work is intrinsically different than the way in which our white counterparts do.
Yeah, I was listening to a recent episode of you all's, and there was like was it like the hip hop therapist or something like that? I forget the official title. But even like for me, I was just like, damn, I didn't even know there was that out there. Like, how can I find that? Especially living here in Atlanta, I'm like, how have I not run across this kind of therapist? I would be in there all day, every day, you know? So it's just like, how do we even, part of it is like, how do we like almost destigmatize mental health issues and working on ourselves in therapy? But then how do we even just market that there's options of what that even looks like? And especially within the Black community, because I'm intrigued by this hip hop therapy now. I'm like, okay, do I just say, want to sit more on my living room floor? Like, you know, like, what do I say in there? Like, you know, so it's just like, are there aspects of just these different ways of therapy that you've put into your practice?
I think for me, there's a modality or a style of therapy called relational. And that's very much what I am. And I think a lot of folks of color probably use a little bit of relational. And basically that's bringing yourself as the therapist into session. And so I think a lot of times we're taught that there has to be this very, you know, strict professional boundary in which you have to like wear a suit and you can't curse and like, oh, and I'm like, fuck that shit. You know, like with my clients, I'm like, it's almost like you're having a conversation with me anyway, with like a homie, but a homie that will call you out, right? Yeah. And the homie be like, "Ooh, you sure you really wanted to do that?" And be like, I look at him sometimes and be like, "So you wasn't jealous at all when you saw her or like that?"
It's like house sway. Houseway.
Yeah. And so it's really you know, I think that's important though. You know, it's important that some of my clients can come in and say like say nigga and not like feel like they have to police their language. That they can say they can say fuck white people sometimes, right? And they don't have to police their language. I'm pretty certain that those same clients, those same folks that I work with would not feel comfortable saying those words with white therapists, right?
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is that you want folks to feel safe and you want them to feel comfortable, because for folks of color, if we do not know you, we do not trust your ass, and we definitely are not going to open up to you, right? And so I think we really have to, and I think Melanated Social Work does a good job of really breaking down whatever idea of therapy people have and really putting our own spin and our own flavor on it.
I'm coming to you.
Right. It's like I mean, that's my next question. Like, finding.
Sure?
Oh, for sure. I literally just texted the aunties earlier today, letting them know that I've been going through it. Like, I've been battling. It's been going on since like May, and I finally just broke down like literally 2 days ago. And I'm grateful. My mother happened to be in town when it happened, so it was just like, whew. But yeah, I gotta do the work. Yeah. And like you said, like, you know, Jason mentioned earlier, like, I've been looking, but it's hard to find someone who is not Black. I don't want a white man telling me about myself. I just, it's just, you know, because it's the things that, you know, truly make up who I am that I need to discuss. And a person who ain't Black ain't gonna understand it.
Right. Yeah. I think too, when we talk about like the lens, right, and how mental health can be harmful, because there are some experiences that we as Black people go through, Black and brown folks go through, that are normal for us, and like a white therapist would be like, oh my God, you know, like that happened, and then we'll spend all of this time, and it's just like,
it's like, yes, that ain't the trauma part.
That's not the issue.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I've had that happen with 3 different therapists now before.
Or the white therapist who cries during your session.
Oh,
it's like, I hope I'm not paying for this shit. Like, I'm taking these minutes out.
Seriously,
you cutting me a check now at this point.
Right.
So how can people find us? Because I find even it's hard online. Like, we always on this podcast say, Google is free, educate yourself. But sometimes it's hard. Like, you know, and like you said, you type in therapist, Black therapist, and you might find one. Luckily here in Atlanta, there seems to be at least a sprinkling of more. But even then it's hard. But what's the best avenue? Like, how can they find, if they want a person of color for therapy, what's the best avenue to go about it?
Follow Melanated Social Work. I'm just
there you go. I know that's
there's a website called InnoPsych, which has it specializes more in Black and brown clinicians, but a lot of times behind the scenes with Melanated Social Work, if I build community with a therapist and I feel like, okay, if I have a gut feeling, it's like, can I co-sign this person? I will share them in our stories or on the page. And shouts out to Soko Ray, shouts out to a lot of people that we meet. Shouts out to Kim Young, LCSW. A lot of therapists are like, they ask us in our DMs or emails questions, and we start building rapport with them. You know, hopefully one day we'll have our own directory. But, you know, we build community with other therapists and start sharing stuff. But there's InnoPsych, and then there's Right Fit Counseling, I believe, too. It's a new thing. I think it's actually out of Atlanta as well. And they make sure, like, if you are a Black or brown therapist, you get clients on your caseload, and they make sure, like, you good? Are you at capacity with your caseload? All right, 15 is cool. All right, we ain't going to hit you up for the next 2 months if you good. But I mean, there's Google, there's InnoPsych, there's Right Fit Counseling, I believe. There's Energy Counseling. My partner, she's a therapist too, if y'all looking for that. But to be honest, even as therapists, it's even hard to find somebody. I know when I switched jobs, I had to change my insurances, and it was really hard looking for a Black therapist. And all my life, I've had Black male therapists. So I was like, let me change it up and get a sister.
Yeah, I know that's
You know what I mean? And I actually met with her yesterday, and then it was even hard for my partner and I to find find a black therapist because I'm African American, my partner's Dominican. We wanted to find somebody that kind of like understood kind of more both cultures. So we actually have a Haitian American therapist who understands like the Caribbean, but also understands like different types of blackness as well. So it's not an easy question, but you got to just be patient and like really look and like talk amongst people in your community to be like, is that person good? Like, you know, it has to be a really, like we all do, a very communal decision. And I know this isn't the question, but part of the question you asked, but a lot of things that are different between black and brown therapists and white therapists, there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens in social work. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a lot of white therapists that are supervisors and such that have to sign off on your hours that do a lot of troublesome, problematic shit. And we have to like grin and bear it and have these people sign off on our next licenses or credentials or whatever the case may be. And they really are just like Marvin said, we're relational. Like I realized white people call like, oh my God, Josh, you're so relational. I'm like, really? I'm just being me. Like, I'm not really thinking about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's how you think about it. I'm just being me with some of these letters behind my name. But they don't really look at it like that. And it's like, this is what it is. They're very rigid to change. And if they do not change, they will be replaced. And melanated social work is taking over for the 2021 and forever.
Come on, Juvie. Taking over for the 99 and the 2000. I know that's right. What's maybe one piece of advice then, I guess, before you go into therapy? Because, I mean, my first couple sessions, I was a little shook. I was just like, damn, I wasn't ready for all of that, Dad. Like, I actually got to really deal with my shit. But, like, what's maybe one piece of advice before you even, like, session one, to maybe mentally prepare yourself, or homework that you might do ahead of time? Is there something that you say, okay, come in and so A, you get your money's worth, B, that you actually get on the path to be a better person or whatever your goal is for yourself? And I don't think I have a C. So those are A and B. So what piece of advice would you give? Jesse.
I mean, I think just acknowledge that it's work. You know what I mean? It's labor that you're doing in there. That's some deep emotional labor. So don't schedule your therapy session in the middle of your day, like between meetings. Like you have to allocate the time and energy for what you're putting out into the world there. So allow yourself enough time and space. So you're going to want to rest afterwards. And just acknowledge that it's hard work. Therapy is going to work as much as you put into it, you know? And so sometimes it's acknowledging, like, where are we in the different stages of change? Sometimes we might be acknowledging that something is a problem in our lives, but we're not quite at the point where we're catalyzed to do something about it. And there's no judgment around that. You know what I mean? Everyone has their own process towards their healing, but just, and so because of that, also be patient with yourself. It's not going to be the type of thing where you go 1-2 times and the problems are fixed. But it's like, you're paying for that service, and know that you deserve an amazing therapist. So if someone's not doing it for you, like, you can tell them that, and you can also switch it up. You don't need to stay with someone if they're not really meeting your needs. And I think through the process of going to therapy, you'll figure out, what is it that I need from this space? Because I don't think that's always clear right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
Man, I have so many questions, but it'll be in like a 3-hour episode. Simone Biles is like in the news right now because she decided to put her mental health first. We don't see that often. We've maybe seen Naomi do it. Maybe over the years we've seen like Serena kind of hint at it and things like that. Vantage point for everyone. Like Jerrell, I know you're like really into gymnastics and things like that. What was your initial thought when you saw it all go down?
Honestly, when I saw that, I felt for her. Like, one, a lot of Olympic sports don't have paying seasons outside the Olympics. You know, a lot of these sports in the Olympics, they live for their shine in the Olympics, and that's how they get their endorsements and all the rest of the stuff. So I understand that, especially for her sport, and also being the greatest gymnast ever, male or female, and have all that pressure on top of it. If you wait to get to the finish line, you 5 meters away, and you just say, I'm done. That's literally what it is. Like, that's the best way to put it. If you're running a 100-meter dash and you said 5 meters to the finish line, nope, I'm out. Like, that's literally what happened. And that just goes to show how, you know, how much she's going through. Like, that was her time. I mean, and the truth of the fact is, honestly, she could do another, you know, Olympics. Again, that's just up to her choice. But then you add into the fact that she chose to stay on the Olympic team to hold them accountable for the sexual allegations. The sport itself is literally hating on her for being a Black woman and being the best gymnast ever by not giving her dues for her individual skills named after her.
Facts.
I mean, like, you put all that together. Let me tell you, the fact that she got up and she even stood up in that stadium, I was like, that's enough. That's enough for me. She goes to the gym. That's enough for me. Like, and honestly, she should be doing that for her. She's not doing any of that for anybody else. And the fact that so many people are like, I wanted to see her. I wanted to. It's also a fact. You had the last 8 years to see her. You could have gone to the U.S. championships. You could have gone to the other different international events. You could go on YouTube.
Go on YouTube,
if you want to
right?
See her, okay, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you that pressed about wanting to see her, 2016 Rio Olympics is up on there for you to watch all her apparatuses. So let her be. Let her be.
Yeah.
You know?
And to Jerrell's point, also, it's like there's so much pressure labor-wise for Black entertainers to perform. That's a whole nother question or a whole nother conversation, because I mean, people are making it like I'm there for her to take the time that she needs, like Naomi and everybody, but I'm pretty fucking sure the average Ryan Lochte or Michael Phelps or white person, they do it too. It just doesn't get talked about. It's like, oh yeah, they just do it. But when we do any fucking thing, it has to be we have to put our heart and soul. It has to be all over the media. And the media knows when Black people start talking about shit, they're putting money behind it to have spins on TMZ or whatever. And I feel as though, like, let her go and take care of her, you know, mental health. And my thing is too, is just like, white people probably do this all the time and it never fucking gets talked about.
And they go my to thing rehab. Is, right. And they be like, oh my God, they got help. We're so proud and happy for them for taking care of themselves and doing the right thing for themselves.
Right. And I was watching it's not Simone Biles, but it's Naomi Osaka. And she got interviewed after the US Open, I think last year, and they're talking to her about her masks. And they're asking the white supporters asking the most, I forgot what question it was. I just got so mad. And I was like, why are you asking her something about her mask and what she should do? What the fuck should you be doing then? Do you ask Tom Brady?
What you gonna wear next? Was it the one like, oh, who you gonna wear next? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like there should be a fucking next. Why you asking me this?
Yeah, why does it have to be a next? Yeah. My question is, like, people can say what they want, and I don't agree with everything Uncle Ice Cube talks about, but if you listen to his interviews, Ice Cube will flip questions on you and then make you ask it. So if they ask me that, I'll be like, well, what do you think? What would you do? Do you ask Tom Brady that shit?
Yeah. That's kind of like that Deion Sanders as well. He's like, don't call me Deion. You could call me coach like you call these other white people coach.
You know what I mean? And my thing is too, is just like, with the way people put a price on Black, specifically, I'm saying it again, Black labor, it's like, again, like, why do you always ask us that? What are you going to do to change these conditions? Why does it always have to be namely a Black woman having to be vocal and be an activist about it? What tangibly is the white media going to do? If they would never ask me a question, I would act like Russell Westbrook and be like, y'all niggas tripping. And turn around, put my hoodie on, and like I would end the interview.
Just out.
Is we finished or is we done?
Right.
Yeah.
I also think there's this larger issue of like white America expecting folks of color to be performers for them. Right? Like white America is just like is appalled when we choose to do things that are not to walk away, right? to say no. When Marshawn Lynch, right, started his "I'm just here so I won't get fined." Right. Yeah. I loved that shit. And he's from Oakland too, so I loved it like double. But it was just like you don't own us. Right? Like you don't own parts of us. You think you own us because they pay us a lot of money, which isn't that much in comparison to like owners and shit. But you think that these folks are supposed to do whatever you say because you want to see them. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right. The other thing with the Simone Biles thing and other celebrities with mental health in general is that we like to call them brave. And that always just bothers me. It's just like, are they brave or are they just prioritizing themselves? And it says more about our fucked up society, right? that we are not open enough to talking about mental health. Yeah. And so now when someone does it, we're like, oh my God, they're so the courageous.
Bravest person I've ever
my God. Are they though?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate if at all this inspires any other young folks in the world to reconsider their own mental health and recognize like when they're at their capacity. I just wanted to shout out some resources too, just because, one of the biggest things is folks accessing therapy, right? Like this shit a lot of times ain't free. So Rachel Cargill, she has the Loveland Foundation. Folks should check that out, thelovelandfoundation.org. And she's providing free therapy to Black girls and women. You don't have to tell her why you need therapy. She will help you find a therapist and pay for that shit. And then you also got Taraji P. Henson's foundation, the Boris Henson Foundation. And she's providing free therapy to folks between the ages of 12 and 22, folks of color specifically. And then you got Marvin Tolliver in here, providing his men's group. I don't know if you want to talk about the men's group that you've done in the past, Marvin, but I know you got some revolutionary shit happening over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. I know. No, so I mean, obviously it's dope as fuck. But I primarily work with Black men, and I was, listening to their, in my individual sessions with them and realizing that there was so much that was similar. And then to my life too, right? And so I'm just like, why not start a group and just talk about all this shit? And so, I had 2 cycles of the group, 10 Black men. It doesn't matter what sexuality, whatever. If you identify as a Black man, you are welcome. It's a 10-week group. We focus on every week is a topic. So we talk about relationships. We talk about toxic masculinity. We talk about self-care, what it looks like to celebrate ourselves. So many different things like that. And there is a cost associated, but through the community, everything has been free because the community has come through and donated for both of my cycles of group. So the third one is going to be this fall. So folks are interested, identify as a Black man, hit me up.
Hey, and we'll put all this in our social media and everything like that. We'll make sure we have all the right links and things like that, and make sure we post that up. That's dope though. Yeah. It come through community. Come on with the donations. Yeah.
It's a lot of white guilt too.
Hey, okay.
Okay. That's okay.
They can pay double.
There's a lot of that going around. So
there's a lot
for them to be guilty for.
You're right.
And speaking of that, I'm starting my doctorate in social work next month. I'm gonna put up on the social medias for the white guilt, for all the white people. Come in the room. We're gonna listen real quick. I'm gonna put my Venmo on there to get a tuition donation or whatever for me and my doctorate, so I can go and continue to help Black men, Black men. Because we don't have a lot of formal places. We have the barbershop and basketball court or wherever else, but like a place where like we can just be listened to. So I'm
Mm.
gonna
That part.
follow the steps of my brother Marvin. So be watching out if y'all have some white
I
people.
love that.
Put all the money in there.
All
Give
the
me
coins.
all the
No.
reparations. Give me all the
money.
coins.
I know
All
that's
the
Big
right.
piece of chicken too.
Where the collection plate at? Come on now.
That's it. You know, when the well-meaning white people ask you, well, what can I do as a white
Oof.
person? You tell them, here's my Venmo, and you're gonna pay for
Pay
my
me what you
therapy.
owe me. Thank you.
You gonna pay what you owe.
Oh man! Before we get to Ask Yo Aunteas, though, let's give them all your social and everything where they can find you. Plug that real quick. And what days do your podcast come out as well?
For
Episode.
sure. So our Instagram is at Melanated Social Work. The website is www.melanatedsocialwork.com. You can get to everything from the website, get to our Teespring account, pick up some merch. You can get linked into the podcast. The podcast is the same name, the Melanated Social Work Podcast. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And what day does it come out? The episodes.
Right now we're doing about 2 a month. You know, we drop them whenever we feel like. So
I know that's right. I know that's right.
What is time? You know,
What is
Right.
that? What is that?
In a pandemic at that.
Right.
You right
because
on
you know
that.
we got to prioritize our own rest sometimes. Like we just
Ah.
be grinding so hard, and it's like, yo, let's take a break.
Yeah.
She's a
Yeah.
runner.
So basically,
track star. I know.
y'all gonna get it when y'all get it.
You right.
Yeah, hey.
All right,
Get the
well,
notifications. That's what you do.
That's that part too.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna get to Ask Yo Aunteas. So, what time is it?
Ask
Your
All right, and you gentlemen are the perfect ones to answer this because I think there's a little link between Boston and this question. It says, since the pandemic, my alma mater, a pretty well-known technical engineering school, has been hosting a variety of events and webinars online and opening them up to alumni. They've been hosting a forum for equity in engineering session pretty much monthly, focused on mostly on diversity from a POC perspective. Today, they hosted a forum with 3 other institutions, an Ivy League private university, a large state public university, and a small private college of engineering, for sharing of their practices in this area. As the moderator introduced the panelists representing each school, I couldn't help but notice that they consisted of 2 older white dudes and a somewhat younger white lady. After a short share from each, the balance of the forum was moderated Q&A session. The lack of racial diversity in the panel, except for the moderator who was a younger black woman, did not go unnoticed by the audience, and to the moderator's credit, it was the first question from the feed that she asked. All 3 gave the standard response to the effect that supporting diversity requires the participation of everyone. While I fully agree diversity and inclusion are team sports, I'm curious about the Aunties' point of view on having the racial diversity programs from all 3 institutions of higher learning not be run by POCs. Thanks.
First, that was a long ass question.
It was a long
Yeah, it
question.
Long ass auntie. But we got there.
What are you thinking, Marvin?
It's the frown for me.
I'm just trying to get it.
Can I help Marvin
It's
out
the
real
wrinkles
quick?
and the eyebrows
come
right
on,
there. I
Josh.
said,
Help
maybe
him
thinking.
out.
Can I help?
Go
Can I help Marvin out?
Go ahead.
Mhm.
So my brother Marvin, shouts outs to M_LCSW. He has a pretty poppin' IG.
Okay.
A few days ago, he said a few DEI trainings plus a few black and racially ambiguous faces in leadership does not equal your organization being anti-racist.
So don't. Let's say that again. Hold on. Let's rewind. Say that again, please.
Oh, you want me to say it? I'll say it again.
Absolutely.
A few DEI trainings plus a few black and racially ambiguous faces in leadership does not equal your organization being anti-racist. My question to y'all too is like, you know, I went to HBCU. You know, like, why couldn't y'all go to Morehouse with that? Why couldn't y'all go to Howard? Why couldn't y'all go to FAMU and get some of the people from down there to get on your Zooms? Like, you don't got to use pay for flights and food. You can just maybe pay a consulting person from one of these HBCUs that's a black person to talk to y'all and tell y'all the real. But unless you're willing to do the work, you're not going to do it. And the paraphrase, I think is Saj Shakur. If I'm correct, please tell me if I'm wrong, Jesse. The oppressor is not going to give you the tools to overthrow them.
All right.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's why, my boy Jesse was saying, like, we got to build our own platforms. And also, that sounds about white. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. There's no magical equation to, like, this white. Like, I think one of y'all said we were just in New Orleans. White people will turn on you like spoiled milk. So, like, what the fuck have they done in 400 for African Americans? 402 years that really means anything. Y'all were mentioning on the last podcast, did African Americans get reparations? No. Do we get any type of tax credits, or do we get free therapy? Do we get our 40 acres and a mule? So, I mean, I hear the question, but also use your Black and brown community, because these white people will be sheep and wolf clothing.
Yeah.
I think it's
they're not to be trusted.
I think it's a joke to have racial diversity programs from 3 institutions and have all old.
2 old dudes and a young white lady.
Like, how you so smart that you're dumb?
You know they don't.
They knew better.
That happened.
Yeah,
that happened.
But they knew better. You like,
Yeah, they had the white lady though. That's diversity.
That's the diversity.
That's the diversity.
No, they had the Black moderator. That's
the moderator.
Yeah, right.
My bad.
Because Black folks love a microphone, right?
It's a wolf. My bad. It's something I said. It's a wolf. It's actually a wolf, and she's clothing. Whatever I said.
Yeah.
But also, I've met with white people. I used to work in a hospital. When Black people are ashy, they don't know the medical terminology. We have to tell them, yo, put lotion on that dude. So to your point, being so smart, they dumb. They don't even know to put lotion on Black people.
Yeah.
In the fucking emergency department. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I think, similar to what I post, I'd be posting shit so much I forgot I'd be posting shit. But these institutions, companies, organizations, they try to put one Black person or one, racially ambiguous person in a position of power, and they're just like, see, we're anti-racist, right? And I compare it to like Obama, right? Obama's the president. Oh, and that's just like saying, see, no more racism in America anymore, right?
Yeah.
Fucking foolish.
Yeah.
Fucking foolish. There has to be so many more things done with, really they have to break down and throw away whatever the fuck curriculum they have, whatever system they have, and build it back up with Black and brown and queer people building it back up together. Because these white institutions made for and by white people are going to remain for and by white people.
We just saw with Dr. Cornell West. We just saw with what's my Black sister at
Nicole Hannah-Jones.
Yes. So it's just like part of me, like when I saw the question come through, I was just like, duh. We've seen it so many times that like it's always potentially the white people that are maybe more in shock about it. And if you're more in shock about it, then you should do some more shit about it. So it's just like,
that's because they think they understand one Black folks, so they understand all Black folks. So for they don't need to do the homework. And they also think because they understand Black folks, that means everyone that look like them also understand Black folks too.
They're colorblind though. They're colorblind.
Absolutely.
I don't see color. I don't see color.
Yeah.
I can tell by that outfit you got on. I'm just saying.
Look, and white people get ashy too. I just want to throw that out there too. And I love talking about
weird. Isn't
it
weird
weird
to
pale
see?
And it still show up on you, bitch?
Isn't it weird to see an ashy white person?
It's
that
like,
shit was
ugh.
weird. Weird as hell to me. Yeah.
Like,
That's not ashy. That's psoriasis.
Because they be using that swab. You know that swab don't work.
That shit don't do nothing.
But it's funny. Like, maybe about when did I post this? July 21st. Someone, Dr. Monica Cox, had tweeted out. She said, instead of showing me your diversity statement, show me your hiring data, your discrimination claim stats, your salary tables, your retention numbers, your diversity policies, and your leaders' public actions against racism and performative allyship. And that's what a lot of these programs and moderations and things like that have turned into. Is like you almost have to do it so at least maybe kind of publicly you don't appear racist, but then you pulled it back that onion layers and it's just like you ain't did shit. Like literally you got two white dudes and a white lady. Like you couldn't find nobody that was of color. That's what you're telling me. Then that's also telling me then there ain't no one in your network. Like you couldn't just call last second and be like, hey yo Jerrell, I got this thing going on. Can you hop in right quick? Like, that's what that's telling me. It's like, it's not even like these two people and the young lady. It's like, that means you couldn't call nobody in your network, in your bubble to show up, to even make it somewhat appear that you care about Black and brown people. That's wild to me.
And white women are the biggest recipients of affirmative action. Let it marinate.
Yeah.
and he muted the... and he said, mute. Drop the mic.
I have a couple of thoughts. I work in diversity and inclusion as part of my day job, and I agree with a lot of what's said. I think one, it was problematic on the bookers just not to do their research before they confirmed the attendees, because I think if the intention is to have representation, then that was a responsibility of the person that's planning the event. You can't control who a person hires. So that's my other point. Diversity and inclusion initiatives at institutions, and granted, there are a lot of institutions where it's bogus and it's performative, et cetera. But we also, as people of color, have been asking white people in particular to be allies. So what do we want? If you want for white people to step in and do the work, some of these motherfuckers are doing the work. They're doing the work. Now, I'm not saying all of them are, but what I am saying is like, let's not automatically discount, that by the race of an individual that it completely offshoots the intention of that particular institution to really create a space. And quite frankly, they may have lacked in the hiring process of finding the candidates or whatever. And it's not to give excuses. I'm just saying, let's just make sure that we're taking a balanced look at this thing. I've worked with a lot of white allies, and I'm saying like white, straight, as vanilla as they come, allies who are smart,
them saltines,
who are smart, who are sympathetic to underserved communities and are staunch advocates and allies to do everything they can to be able to create a better space for all people. And I met a whole bunch of other white people that ain't shit. All I'm saying is, let's just make sure that before we throw out a blanket statement of devaluing what these people had to contribute to the conversation. I get the optics of it, and that is a valid conversation, but what's the content that they're sharing in the context of this environment? Was that value added?
I think the opposite is also the facts, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, the opposite of the reality, which is they didn't do what they needed to do at the end of the day.
If the title is formed for equity, that's the only part
exactly,
that
because
I'm not disputing that.
Right, because I don't get me. I know plenty of white people who are for the cause, who will be in the front lines at every rally and everything. But like we say on the podcast all the time, representation matters. Like it means different hearing you, Dawon, say something than hearing Joe Smith over there say something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you mean Cody?
Or Cody.
Not Joe
Cody.
Smith.
I mean,
Let's
Joe
be clear.
Smith. I mean, Joe Smith is white as far as I'm concerned. I don't know a lot of every Joe I know is white, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But
wasn't there a basketball player for Atlanta Hawks?
Joe Smith?
Wasn't it Joe Smith?
I don't know. All right,
Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson.
We will go with Cody, okay? We will go with Cody. But the point still remains. Though. Like, the message is received completely different. Hearing from someone who represents someone like you. It does not hit the same coming from someone who is just a messenger, or someone who found something through a textbook, or heard from someone else, or heard from a person who looked like you. This is how it's supposed to be. It's just not the same.
And
it's just not the same.
Dawon, I hear what you're saying around allyship, but I think so. The type of white people that melanated social work fucks with, like, these are the white people that know that they don't belong in that space, that they should be taking a step back, and they should be referring out to a person of color that is better suited for that space, right?
That's the difference.
I 100% agree, and I'm not disputing that at all. As I said, I'm agreeing 100% with everything that you guys are saying. From an optics perspective, this is a problem of the booker, because a lot of times, if I'm being engaged for a speaking engagement, oftentimes I don't know until the day of whether or not, who's going to be out there. And sometimes I might not even know until I show up, so all I'm saying is, I'm not trying to discount these points. I'm saying, yes, and let's also have a balanced conversation and not automatically discount the value that individuals bring to a conversation just because they don't represent the same melanin texture that we offer. That's all.
Yeah. And I think he kind of nailed it too, though. He said all three gave the standard response. So I obviously this is an anonymous question, but I know who sent this question in. And they are not a melanated person. So for them to identify that it was a standard response, to me, is that person saying it was problematic. And I agree, like, yes, sometimes you don't know. You like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for equity for the cause for engineering. Oh, that's right up my wheelhouse. Yay. And you show up, you're like, oh shit. I think in that moment though, old man and young lady should have been like, that should have been from jump. That hold on.
Yep.
We signed up for this. I didn't know there wasn't going to be representation on this panel. We need to lift this. It shouldn't have been the moderator that brought this up. So if you're a true ally and what I like to say, an accomplice, you would have nipped that shit in the butt from the get-go.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hold on, let me get somebody on Zoom right quick. I got someone in my network that I can at least zoom in real quick that might have an opinion. There's ways around it, but I just think all three given the standard response is already identifying that it was problematic being on these things. And it sounds, and especially if it's a monthly thing, and it seems like monthly, like you couldn't get like nobody. So and that's the part, especially in
I put blame on the booker. You don't know who you was talking to. You know who you was reaching out to. When you looked at their LinkedIn profile, and you prioritize, oh yeah, I want to have somebody in an Ivy League school coming in here and blah 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 blah, and being complete, like, in my mind, like that's who like, I want to know who booked.
I want all that.
Is Rachel Dolezal over there? Is that what her job is? Oh no. Let's have the real conversation, because when you bring people in front of other people, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're bringing the right person. Yes, there is. Oh, sorry. Yes, there is a component of like personal responsibility. Like, if I show up and I look around, I'm like, oh damn, like, I'm white and everybody up here is white, we talking about black stuff. I'm like, I might want to, have a better
several seats
statement.
And I work in DEI too, at a institution of higher learning. I'll say that. And there's a lot of stuff where I don't sign off, put my name on shit that I can't back up if I don't know what their work is. Because I know what it is. People will show up online, on platforms, on social media, on podcasts, and project themselves one way, but behind the scenes, they're full of shit. So to the point, but also in regards to allies, is there really such thing as an ally? In Reclaiming Our Space by fellow social worker Feminisha Jones on page 43, she says, since there is no mutual benefit for oppressors and the privileged people, when the oppressed are liberated, there can be no such thing as an alliance, thus no allies. And this is her saying, in my longest Twitter thread ever, I offer that people use the term ally as a catch-all term and performative act to assure others that they are not bad people. It was received well for the most part, but with many people, mostly white, saying that the thread helped them think differently about allyship. So like, it can be the booker, with all respect, but like if it's just the booker, then there's a bigger cause to the overall situation, right? That's just a minor cut to a deeper wound of these institutions. But again, we can't put our trust in these institutions. We got to build our institutions. And Marcus Garvey said, basically paraphrasing, let's build up our own independence and do our own shit. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's Melanated Social
Jesse,
Work.
what you have to say? Jesse has something to say. Let's get Jesse to say. Jesse been biting. He been
I
biting.
mean, reading this is just so quintessential. It just feels like Boston. Like this is just reminding me so much of like our
the Mississippi of the
graduate
North
school experience. Yeah, this is the Northeast for sure. But like this concept of diversity requires participation of everyone. I think that's real. Everyone needs to participate, but everyone has a role to play. It doesn't mean that like white people need to be the ones that are the speaking figures. They have a role to play, and part of that is they just need to listen and shut the fuck up. And I think language is important. Like the concept of diversity is like, okay, what are we achieving? We have lots of different people here. Is that enough? Like equity. Okay, we provide differential resources to different people based on their experience. But does that do anything to shift the way that power is held in that space? Just because we give some Black people a scholarship, does that make their college experience any easier? Does that make white supremacy in that institution go away? You know, so what we're really speaking to, what we want, and we should name what we want justice and liberation. We want a dismantling of white supremacy. So it's like, where is the department for that? Because the Department of DEI is gonna operate at best as a symbolic gesture. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of conversations with our institution, Boston College, and folks wanting to bring us in and being like, yo, can you consult? Like, what can we do to make this space more comfortable for Black folks? And when it came down to doing things that are very tangible, okay, reduce the cost of tuition, allow Black people to go to college for free. That's very tangible. Like, how much are you paying this DEI director to do this bullshit? Just let some folks go to school for free. That's just one easy thing. And it's like, when it comes down to actually doing things that address the long history of racism in this nation, they don't want to do that. You know?
Man, but hey, community, thank you for sending in this question. Continue to send your Ask Yo Aunteas questions to AYA@minoritetyreport.com, or DM us or text us, or you see us in the street, let us know. And by the way, I did look up, Joe Smith was a basketball player. I had to look, it was going to bother me. He played from 95 to 2011. So,
and was he Black?
So, yeah. Blackity
okay,
black,
cool.
Black.
So Cody.
So Cody it is.
Cody it is. Cody it is.
But before we get out of here too, we got to quickly talk about the baby.
Y'all can talk about him.
Because here's the thing, and I liked past tense the baby. I liked his music. Like, it got me hyped. But like it just shows, specifically in the Black community, the ignorance and the toxic masculinity and everything that like we try to continue to dismantle shows up all the fucking time from people that people look up to, you know? And so for him to like be in concert and hold on, let me even just say what he just said, so I don't speak out of turn. But it's just
while you looking that up, was it just me, or did this like just feel like it just came out of the blue?
Right.
When you watch the video, it seems very out of the blue.
It's just, and like what I don't understand is like even the reference, like the HIV reference was like so. Ain't nobody like dying in 2 weeks from HIV. Right. So I'm just like, what was going on in this brother's head that thought that in the middle of a concert, I'm just gonna like have a Kanye moment and start talking about, like shit that
bullshit that he
ain't
don't know
even real.
Yeah,
like for real, like even the fact that he was just like, if you
didn't show up today,
dick and
Yeah, I have the quote. It says, if you did show up today with HIV, AIDS, or any of them deadly sexual transmitted diseases that'll make you die in 2 to 3 weeks, then put your cell phone lighter up. Then he went on to talk about the women. Then he said, fellas, if you ain't sucking dick in the parking lot, put your cell phone lighter up. And it's just like
how do you have that specific ssnenario in your head?
That's
like,
what I'm trying to
suck a
figure
dick
out.
in a parking lot. Like,
Well,
you
we know
had
why.
to have been, doing something or
Right, that is a very
watching
specific moment.
something where they were in the parking lot sucking dick. I'm just saying that is just too specific to be calling out at a
And here's what I struggle with.
And
It's like,
what
okay,
are the other diseases what are the quote unquote other diseases that would have somebody dying in 2 weeks?
COVID
The only
at
one
your
that I know at this
at
point
your packed
is
ass
COVID,
concert.
right? Or tuberculosis, like COVID or tuberculosis, like the Black Plague, shit that been gone for like since the 1800s.
Polio, all them.
Like,
Yeah,
what?
And here's where I struggle to. It's like, okay, everyone says some wild shit from here to there. But then you're going to double down when people call you out on it and try to educate you and inform you of why it's problematic is where I really was like, okay, damn the baby. Like,
and T.I. co-signing into the conversation.
And that's another hard thing.
If Lil Nas X can do his thing, then he can do his thing. So I'm like,
and hashtag equality.
Equivalency.
Yeah.
And the equivalency does not match up.
So it's just like,
Indubitably.
Right. And so it's and it just always seems to come from our community at some point again, where if you're any part of the LGBTQIA plus community, you're less than. And I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of you being uneducated about HIV and AIDS, which are two separate things, by the way. Like, you can't lump them together. So yeah, when I saw this pop up, I was like, "Oh God, here we go!" And then just other people chiming in just as stupidly. Really.
It always baffles me how the dumbest people are the most confident with their words. It's just like
Because they don't know better.
And I'm not. I mean, yes, I'm.
That was a bar, by the way.
Right.
That was a bar.
The baby. Yeah, he said what he said, but then also it's the other dumbasses that are like,
and liking the shit out that post too. I'm like, how many people are liking the shit?
Where are we? Why are people so just like the stupidity? And I'm not calling it ignorance because like you can Google that shit.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just astounding, y'all. The bar is already so low to just be a decent, straight cis man.
Yep.
And the baby limboed under that shit.
Uh-huh.
Like,
He said, yeah.
Bruh, he had the roller skates on and everything.
Right.
Like,
And can we talk about how a lot of these cis black male rappers are constantly telling people to suck their dick?
All the time.
that part.
Constantly talking about gay faggot shit. Oh, the gay faggot suck my dick. Like, why are y'all so obsessed with queerness? Why?
We know why.
We know
We
why.
do.
No, we know why,
don't we?
We
We
know
know
why.
We know why. That's the truth. It's crazy. Like my Facebook has turned from deleting racist white people because of politics and everything that's going on, you know, and now it's turned to deleting homophobic black folks, family and all.
Yeah.
When I tell you, I said, great auntie, I love you and all your 78 old ass years, but you ignorant and you got to go off my timeline today.
You didn't say the 78 old ass.
I sure did in the comment. And I tagged her children
Ooh,
in the comment so everybody know I was done.
that's
with
like Gary
auntie.
coming out.
I was done.
Damn.
I was done.
Your whole lineage, like
I was done. Absolutely.
She done went on the ancestry.com and cut off a whole limb.
yo,
That limb just went bloop and fell off. All the leaves just fell off.
As I said,
I'm
look,
CCing
like, you got to go.
I'm CCing you.
He said,
I'm just waiting
Everybody.
for my grandma, because my grandma's the only person on this planet that won't get the smoke, that will never ever get the smoke. She's the one person on. If my grandma called me and be like, you need to apologize, I will suck it up and I will apologize. I won't.
How you gonna say it? How you gonna say it?
I'm gonna be like,
I'm sorry you felt that way.
Sorry that your
Right.
old ass felt that way.
Right. Sorry that you too old to understand that the shit that you've been thinking all your motherfucking life is wrong.
Sorry
Have
about
a
it.
good Thursday.
Have a good Thursday.
Right.
Peace and blessings be upon you.
And
Positive
honestly,
vibes.
that's one thing I enjoy about you all's podcast, because you can have straight men, bisexual men, all together, and it rarely comes up. Like, it comes up, but it doesn't come up. And to be in that room and the respect level, I thoroughly enjoy it, because that's an image we don't see often enough in our community. But B, even if we did see it often enough, like, it's just not the standard. Like, it always has to be like, oh, Kerel's the gay one. Like, it doesn't have to be spoken all the damn time. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Yes, coolio. But that's why I thoroughly enjoy about your podcast, because that's just something we need to see out there more often. Quite frankly.
I mean, it's a non-fact. I mean, I'm gonna make the assumption that for Jesse, Josh, and Michael, it's a non-fucking fact. I don't think they're worried about who I'm having sex with.
That
I don't think they care very much.
Yeah,
Right.
As long as I'm enjoying it.
Right. It's like,
We
man,
care in so much in that you're an amazing human being, Marvin, and you deserve some special people. So, you know what I mean? We care that much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
My thoughts on the baby is, for one, I don't know if the Black community is more homophobic than any other community, because they're all homophobic in many different ways. But when we're in our world, that's what we think, oh, we're the most. And that's the thing I have with Black people. We got to stop saying we're the worst with stuff, because then people, well, the Black community spreads COVID.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that's
I feel that.
almost to like some black on black
that.
crime shit. Nonetheless, back in, let me look, January, I posted something that niggas got mad at.
He be coming with
when
the
I
receipts.
said,
I'm so here
I
for
love it.
And I don't know how he find this shit so quick.
One thing
Auntie
about
Whitney.
Josh is he has the receipts.
Auntie Wikipedia over here.
You ain't gonna correct him.
I know that's right.
I posted on January 29th, 2021. I said Black men need to stop enabling anti-Blackness with their non-Black partners, because he had Dana Lee out here faking the funk being Black on some Black fish shit. So he's been problematic since day one. Second of all, he's a fuck nigga.
Ooh.
Third of all, a lot of times with niggas like this, and to be honest, I gotta be honest with you. I used to be a nigga like this myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Until I just realized, just to educate myself and put myself in situations to better learn. And I feel a lot of brothers like this, hey man, there's something maybe about you that you're afraid to confront if you just pulling that up out of nowhere. And it seems as though he's not doing any type of research. It's not coming from an informed way. And I'm not even talking about an educated, I don't even want to use the word hotep. That's actually, people bastardize that word. That means, I think, happiness and something from ancient Egyptian. But I'll say photep, right? They fake educated, so I'll say faux is fake.
Yeah.
But a lot of this rhetoric just comes really from lack of education and not knowing anything and trying to distance himself. So it's like, what are you projecting right now? Have you gone to a therapist? Like, he's put his hands on women. He's hit people.
Yeah.
I think he's allegedly shot somebody. And it's just like, and killed him, I believe, if I got that right. So it's just like, where is this really coming from? And it's sad. That's really more of somebody like, as an African-American male, that's his hat. That's more of our jobs, talk and push the envelope and try to call brothers in initially. And if they some fuck niggas like this, and call they Black asses out.
Yeah.
And this is just totally unacceptable and very uninformed. And like, again, where the fuck was it coming from? Was somebody trying to get at you and you got mad and you were being passive aggressive?
Right.
If it's like that, then say that. Be like, hey man, the fuck nigga in the parking lot was trying to press me, I'm not, you know, if that's what you don't want to do, that's okay. But like, you don't gotta stereotype and speak about ignorance and label a whole community about these things. It's just totally unacceptable.
It was,
and he will get canceled.
It was almost like, because it's the randomness for me.
Yeah,
it's the randomness, and it was almost like all the words up till, you know, the sentence where he's like, if you're not in the parking lot getting your dick sucked. It was like everything that he said before that was a lead up just to that part.
Right.
In my like, you know what I mean? You know how like when you know you in the wrong and you gotta lie, so you gotta figure out what your lie is, and then you gotta figure out the shit to back up your lie. That's what it felt like to me. And it was so, there was absolutely no benefit whatsoever to him or anyone else for him to make those kind of statements. So it's almost like he was telling on himself.
And
it's random, but not surprising though. You know what I mean? Because I mean, the list of hip hop artists that I could say I've listened to that don't perpetuate some sort of homophobia, transphobia, or just patriarchy, you know, it's mostly just female MCs. And so it's only a matter of time before a lot of these male MCs just let us down. You know?
Well, A, nothing wrong with your dick sucking the parking lot.
I still can't get that. I still can't get that image of the bar being so low and the baby roller skating underneath. I can't get that out of my head.
Boom, boom, boom. And that's the last bass line of the baby song I'll utter in my life probably now. But yeah, I mean, it's like, that's what I get for liking this new age like artists. I probably like a new age rap star or rap whatever he is, and damn, like you know, talking about getting your dick sucked in the parking lot, which I have done before.
So specific, so specific. I think he was probably trying to get his dick sucked in the parking lot and then got turned down by one.
Maybe he was trying to suck some dick in the parking lot.
Absolutely was.
Maybe both.
He's like, you know how much money I got?
Right.
Like, I don't want it.
They showed up to the hiccup and I was like, oh, this it? And they hurt his feelings.
That's exactly what it is.
Someone like somebody that has some hurt feelings.
Because you know they don't like that.
So right.
It's one thing to be wrong, but it's another thing to double down and continue to be a fuck nigga about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been wrong. I can admit that. And I'm trying to be like, you know, thank you. Be humble with it. But I think he even gave a fake apology that was like, I'm sorry. It was some fake contrived apology. It's like, why would you even apologize in the first place?
It went on live.
If you're gonna come with that, double down with the fuck shit. Instead of giving a bullshit apology. Keep it 1,000 either way. Don't be in the middle with the gray area.
Raggedy ass T.I. came in and was like, you know what? He
co-signing on that bullshit.
What?
And that's
ain't you accused of raping somebody? Like, we don't need you co-signing on nothing.
That part.
Little R. Kelly Jr. Like, come on now.
Ain't had to say no words.
None.
No one asked him.
Inconsequentially. Inconsequentially.
Right.
T.I. needs to be quiet expeditiously.
That part. That part.
Expeditious.
And the hard thing is, like, I have close friends that are signed to T.I. So like I see I don't know T.I., but like if I showed up, he'd be like, hey, what's up? And so now they're like, damn. And so I'm over here making sure that none of them motherfuckers liking and posting, because I'm about to read all you motherfuckers to filth right now. But anyway. Melanated Social Work Podcast. Gents, thank you for taking the time to rock it with us. Like, this episode, I was so looking forward to. I really was. So, again, plug where they can find you. Oh, go ahead, Dawon.
I was just going to say, this is like the Black Brotherhood that, like, we need, and we need it right now. Like, this right here is just, the vibe is so amazing. So, thank you guys for coming on.
Well, for real, I'm coming to the Bay. And I'm right up in Seattle, so I'm coming to the Bay and Marvin, and I'm gonna be sliding on DM.
Listen, I've been telling everybody it's a hot boy summer. Shoot your shot. We'll see what happens.
part.
Jerrell, you just see if you ask them to be your therapist or you're gonna sign it, you gotta pick one. You can't do both.
1,000, like I said, 1,001 way.
That's a conflict of interest, bro. That's conflict of interest.
So
I'm just
maybe
saying.
I use the wrong words. I'm gonna message you in your DMs. I'm not gonna slide into DMs because my intentions are different. Okay. I mean, you fine. Don't get me wrong. You fine. Don't get me wrong. Okay.
But if the message, but
Okay.
listen, if that DM message includes anything that has to do with the parking lot, then you know what's up.
Oh,
You know what's up, right?
So you can find Melanated Social
Thank you.
on Instagram at Melanated Social Work. You can find us at www.melanatedsocialwork.com. Check out the Melanated Social Work Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, wherever the hell else you listen to podcasts. You can follow me at mtolliver_LCSW. Y'all, they don't really like to give out theirs. So
That's all right. That's all right.
Good.
yeah, check us out. We fucking the mental health world up.
Hey.
Yeah.
And community, if you want some more conversation, go look over at their podcast, subscribe and download because we're on their episode as well. So so check that out. But until next week, continue to wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your ass.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
All right, bye y'all.
Hey.
Peace.